The cold weight of a loaded firearm in your hand changes the way you think about time. I sat in absolute darkness at the bottom of the staircase, listening to the muffled sounds of my life shattering directly above my head. I had come home early to surprise my wife with an anniversary trip, but instead, I walked into a trail of discarded clothes leading straight to our marital bed. My heart hammered against my ribs, not out of fear, but from a calculated, freezing rage that demanded absolute retribution. Before the confrontation began, I needed a tactical advantage, so I reached out to my law partner who handled our firm's heavy criminal defense cases. I calmly told him I was sitting outside my bedroom waiting for two intruders to finish their business, and that he would need to arrange my bail before sunrise. He urged me to stay calm and avoid doing anything irreversible, but I just offered a quiet laugh because the plan in my mind was already set in stone. I was a man with nothing left to lose except my dignity. Digging through the stranger's discarded jacket, I pulled out a wallet containing the identity of a man named Douglas Vance, complete with photos of his unsuspecting family. Next to it lay his smartphone, vibrating on the table as if it belonged in my house, proving this was a well-established routine. I felt a sudden, bitter urge to share my agony with the one person who could truly understand this level of devastation, so I unlocked his screen and dialed his home number. The call connected on the third ring, answered by a furious woman who immediately unleashed a torrent of anger, assuming her husband was on the other end. She screamed about him missing their young daughter's milestone birthday party and threatened a permanent divorce if he failed to return home immediately. I gently interrupted her shouting, introducing myself as Arthur Pendleton and explaining that Douglas was currently occupied upstairs with my wife, who happened to be his personal assistant at the office. The silence on the line was deafening before she demanded to speak with him, her voice cracking under the sudden weight of realization. I told her that Douglas would be unavailable for quite a while because I intended to shoot him the moment he stepped onto the bottom landing. I explained my reasoning with terrifying calmness, noting that I did not want to ruin my expensive mattress up there, so waiting downstairs for them to finish seemed like the most logical choice. I could hear the floorboards creaking above, signaling that their intimate afternoon was finally over, and they were making their way toward the stairs. I told the betrayed wife to stay near her phone because she would soon need to know which local emergency room the ambulance would be taking her husband to. She told me not to bother because she was completely finished with him, but I reminded her to think of her children before she hung up the phone. While I waited in the shadows, my mind drifted through the 8 years of devotion I had poured into a marriage that was now completely hollow. I looked at our framed wedding portrait on the wall, wondering how many of those smiles were genuine and how many were part of an elaborate performance. The upcoming tropical vacation tickets in my coat pocket felt like a cruel joke, transforming my deepest affection into a poison that burned through my entire existence. My unfaithful wife, Evelyn, stopped dead in her tracks at the bottom step, causing Douglas to bump right into her back in the dim light. I reached over and flicked on the bright overhead lamp, illuminating the absolute terror that instantly washed the color from their guilty faces. They stared down the barrel of my weapon, and for the first time in months, Douglas realized that his actions carried a price he was not prepared to pay. I ordered Evelyn to sit on the floor while I turned my attention to the naked executive standing paralyzed on my stairs. When Douglas shifted his weight as if to run, I fired a round directly into the wooden banister, sending splinters exploding through the air. He froze instantly, his arrogance completely dissolving as a puddle of urine pooled at his feet, proving he was nothing more than a coward when stripped of his corporate titles. I demanded to know the truth, and Evelyn confessed through her tears that their affair had been going on for over half a year during my business trips. They had never bothered to use protection, a detail that sickened me to my core as I realized she had risked my health without a single thought. The illusion of her love was shattered forever, reduced to a cheap office romance that had systematically dismantled the home we built. I tossed Douglas his smartphone and informed him that his wife already knew every single detail of his betrayal. I also revealed my profession as the top matrimonial attorney in the region, ensuring him that his wife would receive flawless legal representation entirely on my dime. To seal the promise of his ruin, I aimed low and sent a bullet through his right thigh, listening to him scream in agony on the floor. After calling emergency services and surrendering my weapon to the arriving officers, I spent the remaining hours of the night in a cold holding cell. My partner arrived with my bail paperwork by dawn, informing me that the prenuptial agreement was airtight and Evelyn was already packed and gone. Douglas had survived the flesh wound, but his wife had already met him at the hospital with a stack of fresh divorce papers. Days later, we launched a massive legal assault against Douglas and his employers at the firm, exposing a long history of covered-up workplace misconduct. The board of directors quickly realized that a public trial would destroy their reputation, leading to a massive seven-figure settlement that ensured absolute financial ruin for my enemy. Out of the ashes of that betrayal, Douglas' ex-wife even joined my practice, transforming her pain into a legal career. Years later, I stood on a balcony overlooking the ocean, holding the same travel reservations I had postponed during that dark chapter of my life. My phone chimed with a message from Sarah, celebrating her first major courtroom victory and thanking me for guiding her toward a brighter future. I realized then that while betrayal can destroy your past, the choices you make in the aftermath define the true strength of your future.